The Shrine game is in the rear view mirror, and now we turn our attention to the big one. The Reese's Senior Bowl takes place this weekend down in Mobile, Alabama, showcasing some of the finest senior talent in the nation graduating for the NFL draft. For the Philadelphia Eagles, this game has become a breeding ground for some of their more notable draft picks, and if you need an example, look no further than franchise quarterback Carson Wentz. So with that in mind, we know the needs the team have going into this offseason. Who are the players that they may be wanting to keep a closer eye on as the Senior Bowl unfolds this weekend? My name is Liam Jenkins. For the 10 names you should be circling on that roster sheet. Before we get started, it will be amazing if you could leave a like and hit that subscribe button. We want to build our community out as much as we can. Also guys, don't forget we will be doing a watch along live stream for the Senior Bowl on Saturday. Kickoff at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune in live to our YouTube channel to help evaluate prospects and to just have some discussion on a nice Saturday afternoon watching football. It makes sense that we start at wide receiver, and with 1,192 yards and 8 touchdowns to his name as a senior, Brandon Ayuk did more than just turn heads. The 6'1", 206-pound receiver projects as the perfect big slot guy for the Eagles to target if they want to use him in that capacity. He's extremely loose in his route running, and his cuts are icy cold when changing direction. Ayuk possesses a lot of core strength, which does make it difficult to disrupt the stem of his routes and makes him lethal at the catch point in 50-50 spots. He's not perfect, and his use of hands at the line could be improved. He can often get swallowed up by press coverage and struggles to get open in those first couple of steps, making intermediate routes a little bit tricky as he relies on open space to make his pay dirt. But if the Eagles can use him in a similar vein to Aguilar and Tate as a gadget or slot receiver, then the ceiling for this zippy wideout is really high, and you could see him making some plays in this West Coast offense. Staying on the wide receiver train but hopping to a different station, we've got Denzel Mims out of Baylor, and this guy is a man mountain. But often, bigger receivers like the 6'3", 215-pound monster are a little bit sluggish and tend to only be dominant in the red zone, or in the case of Doyle Green Beckham, nowhere at all. But do not paint Mims with that same brush. His release, route running, and sheer vertical speed are staggering for someone his size, meaning that corners won't want to press him, instead allowing him free reign to shield the ball with his body as he boxes them out of the equation when he gets close. He's got an incredible catch radius, which you can match up to his size, and when you add in some really nice instincts, the makings of a star are apparent. But Mims is going to be a developmental prospect, and that bothers me from an Eagles perspective for obvious reasons. Mims has a habit of staying too high when cutting, almost fighting against getting compact and sinking his hips into the cut to burst out, and I guess you can attribute that to his frame. Everything's a little bit premature. He's tall but not physically dominant, and his positioning could use some work at the top of routes, especially on curls and comebacks. Most teams should be able to coach this into a very strong talent, but until the Eagles find some solidarity at the wide receiver coaching spot, I'll reserve judgment on that, and I kind of wouldn't want to see him be brought into that system only to stagnate or be given the Arcega-Whiteside treatment during his rookie year when he's got a clear roll out of the box. They say two's company and three's a crowd, but I disagree in this instance. The third receiver I'm looking at is Devin Duvernay out of Texas, and if we're talking slot receivers, Devin Duvernay has my heart. If you can imagine Greg Ward Jr. at a similar size of 5'11", 210 pounds, but zippier, that's Duvernay. The man is just electric as a route runner, but projects to be a day 2 pick due to some rawness in his game. His hips are a little tight, and every cut seems to be like a jagged stab as opposed to a fluid motion, which, don't get me wrong, looks kind of fun on tape, but it's gonna haunt him at the next level. However, his lightning speed, ability to pick up yards after the catch, and nasty mentality to defeat tacklers head-on more than make up for that. He's not quite there yet as someone that's ready to start day 1, but if you want a secret weapon, his 1,386-yard season really does speak for itself. Another pressing area of need this offseason is bound to be cornerback, and there's one name that sticks out considering that most of the bigger names are actually taking the Senior Bowl off. Troy Pride has picked up plenty of love this week, which is great news considering how frustrating his tape is to watch. Pride is absolutely rapid as a cornerback and can go toe-to-toe with some of the best in the class. His read and reactability is mesmerizing and is dazzling those down at Mobile watching the practices, but it's a two-sided coin. It's rare to see him in press coverage without already assuming he's going to have to recover after losing at the release. He doesn't use his hands, he kind of does what Eagles corners do and sits back, relies on those open hips and that burst to keep him in contention, and lacking the ideal length means that he can get a bit snaggy at the catch point and of course draws flags. He's got all the makings of a future starter, and the show he's putting on this week down in Alabama certainly gives teams the confidence he can hit that ceiling, but how will he look in that competitive environment? Only time will tell. While we're in the secondary, let's take a look at Ashton Davis out of California. He'd be a snug fit as a single high in this Eagles defense. His positioning is excellent and he can manipulate his zone to keep the QB hesitant just long enough for the pass rush to get home. There's clearly a great schematic understanding here, and it's backed up by a thunderous hitter that can miss and take bad angles at times, so I wouldn't feel too confident playing him inside the box. But as someone that can act on those instincts around the ball and make some eye-catching plays, I think Davis has got the makings of a developmental starter as a single high safety. At 6'1", 207 pounds, he's got plenty of room to grow, and he shows all the basic traits needed to hold his own in this cover 3 scheme. Next up, cornerback AJ Green. Definitely not the Bengals wide receiver. This guy coming out of Oklahoma State immediately drew my attention. The Eagles seem to have a phobia of dinner cornerbacks, corners that can thrive at the catch point and bat balls away. They instead like breakfast corners, players who thrive at the line of scrimmage and like defending what's in front of them, and he's one that fits that breakfast mold. He wraps up ball carriers, plays physical, and while he doesn't have a lot of ball production, he plays extremely physically and extremely aggressively. This can work against him with scrappy play, often drawing flags, so that is something to watch. But overall, the 6'1", 190-pound corner was a 4-year starter who ended his senior year with 39 solo tackles and a pick. Any flashes of production here will boost his stock heavily, but you could see the Eagles going after a guy like this in the same way they went after Jalen Mills in 2016. This one's a bit of a wild card because Bryson Hopkins could easily be an early day 2 pick, but I think the Eagles really do miss having a third tight end they can lean on. Josh Perkins has been a pleasant surprise, but it's not quite Trey Burton, and Hopkins is coming off an 830-yard year where he also scored 6 touchdowns for the Boilermakers. He isn't a blocking tight end by any means, and he does struggle massively as an inline blocker, but he's someone that has a great deal of vertical speed and strength in leveraging his way down the route. His route running is a little clumsy at times, but it's not bad by any stretch. And I know what you're immediately thinking, but if the Eagles want to run a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, this is going to be cheap and cheerful in the long run, and of course as an insurance policy if Ertz or Goddard goes down, which almost became a scary reality towards the end of last year. The Eagles are going to gain 3 compensatory picks anyway, so if he falls into the third, I could see them spending that extra asset to snap him up. There are 2 things I'm a sucker for when evaluating prospects: small school sleepers and players with double-barreled surnames that end up in 3 initial abbreviations. Akeem Davis Gaither could be my perfect pick here. Put it simply, the Eagles miss Jordan Hicks and have a potential out on Nigel Bradham's contract, and ADG is an outside linebacker that just shines when you turn on the tape. He only allowed 10 of 21 targets on 10 plus yards to be completed in the last 2 years and earned a PFF grade of 87.1 against the run and was used down near the line of scrimmage frequently, which of course bodes very well for how the Eagles like to deploy their linebackers. In coverage, his spacing and positioning is beyond impressive. Last year he registered 104 tackles, 14.5 of which were tackles for a loss, 5 sacks, 8 pass breakups, 6 QB hits, and a pick. Small school sleeper. Next up, quarterback Steven Montez. The Eagles may well be looking to draft a QB3 this year, and Colorado Steven Montez fits the bill. He has a bigger frame that Peterson covets at 6'5", 230 pounds, and completed 63% of his passes last year with a slightly worrying touchdown to interception ratio. He's definitely a project. He's got the requisite arm strength, but accuracy is a bit sporadic, and mechanically, there's a lot to work on in terms of progressing through reads and standing tall in the pocket. His footwork is beyond shaky, and he struggles to align himself with the target, resulting in kind of overexerting his over body, which is interestingly what we saw from Nate Sudfeld when he came out of Indiana, and the Eagles haven't done a bad job coaching him up since they poached him from Washington. So maybe Steven Montez is the perfect fit for that developmental role. And finally, we've got to have a defensive end on there because it's the Eagles and they clearly like pass rushers, so I've gone with defensive end Bradley Anae out of Utah. He's 6'3", 257 pounds and had 13 sacks as a senior, and that just can't be ignored. He's likely a day 2 pick. He's got a lot of bend to his game and has a violent swipe in his back pocket, along with a few more moves, including a nice spinner. But he doesn't have the athleticism or overall slipperiness that most edge rushers do, and he kind of pushes into the chest of a tackle, making it hard to disengage. Instead of trying to rip down and get around, he wants to win with power, and he doesn't always have that on his side against some of the more stout tackles, and that will hurt him at the next level. There's clearly an upside there, but this week will go a long way in seeing how high that really is. But who will you be watching down in Mobile this weekend, guys? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget as well, we will be doing a watch-along live stream of the Senior Bowl, so you can evaluate the prospect with me right here on the YouTube channel. That will start at 1:30 kickoff for the game on Saturday, so stick around for that one. But in the meantime, from myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you soon.